All right, good evening. Welcome everyone to the November meeting of the McCandless Environmental Advisory Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First on the agenda, approval of the minutes from October. I believe they've been out. Dave had a couple of minor editorial comments. Anybody else have any comments or omissions or suggestions?
I didn't have any.
Okay, if so, do we have a motion to approve the minutes for October?
I'll make the motion.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Thank you. And real quick, a small addition to the agenda, just the announcement that we've received Jeff's resignation from the EAC. He has moved out of the town, so is no longer able to be on the committee with us. So he submitted his formal resignation and it went to council on Monday, correct? And
Yes, we formally accepted his resignation so that we could move forward, which we appreciated his, getting quickly his resignation so we could get it on
Right.
council's agenda. And now, John,
Yes, we're gonna have to advertise again.
I know. So I assume you're the guy.
Yeah, I'll talk to Bob when I get the chance and just get it out there again.
Please do.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
we have advertisements lined up now, right? Updated.
yeah, I know. So that's got to be announced for what? It's got to be advertised for 30 days.
Yeah,
And we'll
and then fingers crossed,
Yes, because our other candidate, Mr. Glue, if you recall, because he would have been in the running. for
Right,
this.
right.
However, he was recruited, which I'm very happy about because he was a very nice candidate to assist the town. And he was recruited by the activities committee. And on Monday night, he was voted in as a new member of the activities
Okay, well,
committee.
that's good.
So we do not have any,
There's no
let's say,
pool of
remaining
candidates.
candidates to draw from.
Right.
So it would be in everyone's interest on this committee to try to recruit. And
Yes.
I will as well, I don't know who exactly yet, but to try to get some good candidates.
And that works because that's how we have a couple of our awesome members here now was
Absolutely.
some pressure from some
Yeah,
other members. So I
people-
appreciate that.
I remember Kim Zachary has always told me her experience has been that people really need to be asked. That they could see it, they could be aware of it, but the real key to getting involvement is that people really want to be asked.
Mhm.
So I think the recruitment part is really important.
Okay, well, thanks. So that's next up. Next couple of months, we get to interview some more candidates. So hopefully, with any luck, maybe by January, we can be back to full again for more than a month at a time. Okay, next up, project updates and discussion items. Dave, you have update on litter and roadside cleanup.
Yes. Can you hear me? I don't have a little,
Oh, yeah.
Loud and clear.
Very loud and clear.
there's usually a little like a yellow outline or something that says that you're being heard, but anyway. So yeah, the cleanup originally was scheduled for Saturday, October 16th. We got rained out. Basically the police and the DPW called it off the Friday afternoon beforehand, which I think is totally appropriate for them. I mean, it just has to be kind of a safety call, and if it's raining hard enough, visibility is reduced on the roadways. So I think that's just totally appropriate for them to make the call. That way, it's not me, it's not John, it's not Judy making some kind of call and then something happens. So anyway, we did it the following Saturday, October 23rd. Fewer volunteers, around 40 or so. We had two groups of kids from the Key Club at North Allegheny, which was good. They're have pretty much participated every time. John's tally was about 140 bags of litter. Again, thanks to DPW was out there roaming around picking up bags for us, and the police did some traffic safety patrols for us on, I think it was Rochester Road and also on McKnight Road. And the one on McKnight, we were able to get a section of McKnight done that hasn't been done ever before. So that was cool that we did that.
And DPW is really on the ball, because I tell you what, you walk halfway down your route, you turn around and look
Yep.
behind you, and the pile of bags is already gone.
Yeah,
So
they really were on
yeah,
it.
they sneak in and out of there in a hurry, but yeah, they cleaned up really fast.
Um,
And I know the police that escorted us, he was super great. So I don't, can we send them a little thank you card or something? Or can I sign a thank you card for you to give to the cops that were involved?
We shouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, I could get the names from chief, and then if you guys want to put together a card or three.
I'll do
cards,
that. Yeah, thank you. That would be great, John. John will get me the names. Okay. Unless you know who they were. I'm sorry.
yeah, the other new wrinkle this year, we had gift cards. Lynn Atman went out and solicited some donations for gift cards and prizes and that kind of thing from about 20 local businesses. So the following week, we had a drawing of anyone who participated, and a gift card was put in their name. So that was pretty good. The 23rd was not a beautiful day. It was still kind of drizzly. Because of the fewer folks that showed up, we have done some follow-up areas. The Perry Highway Hill, McKnight Road, a different area of McKnight Road. Sloop Road was picked up not last weekend, the weekend before last. Sloop is infamous for beer bottles, beer cans, alcohol bottles. It's a real area over there. It's just amazing how much alcohol bottles there are over there. Anyway, we're already looking forward for spring. We have a date, Saturday, April 9th is what we normally do the first Saturday in April, 1st or 2nd, near the beginning of the month. So Saturday, April 9th is the weekend before Easter weekend. We're thinking about, because the spring there's so much to pick up after the winter. We're thinking about doing the 9th and the 23rd, see if we can get another group of folks or the same folks that want to go out for another Saturday on the 23rd. So that would be the weekend. The 9th is before Easter and the 23rd is the weekend after Easter. But basically just thinking about that at this point. That's all I have on litter. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, next up on the agenda, the Stormwater Utility Program. I was really hoping that everybody would have a chance to watch that presentation. Has everyone here had a chance to look at it?
The audio wasn't the best.
No, it was not. That was.
I think I got the
pretty
gist of it.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
But I did what Dave suggested and I watched it. I had the slides up on one screen
Oh,
and
that's
kind of watched it on the other, which helped. Because my hope here was not to have Shelley go over the entire thing, but basically to answer questions, clarification. Is that okay, or does anybody need more information than that? Ken, if there are slides printed out over there.
Okay.
You look like maybe you hadn't had a chance to see it.
I'll do it.
Put my phone in, I can't.
Yeah, okay. So Shelley, I mean, is there anything you want to say to start the conversation, or do we just want to start with some questions?
I guess I'm happy to answer questions. I guess I'll give you some, context about the current status.
Okay,
So that presentation was given. And it was, that presentation was given, and the question, the vote in front of council was whether or not they would approve taking, it's kind of like a 3-step process. Taking step 1, which was to invest engineering dollars into actually gathering the data, the GIS data that would get us to a place where we understood what in McCandless, what an ERU
what that would cost.
looked like. And what and in order to get to it, so you have a residential ERU, and only when you have that, can you then also do the GIS work to understand what the institutional and commercial properties look like,
Mhm.
which are different, but they're under a utility fee situation based upon their impervious surfaces. They have a ERU times a certain amount.
Right,
So in simple math, if an ERU is 3,000 square feet for a residential unit, and a commercial or institutional is 30,000, then they pay 3 times.
right. But the only ones that are scaled are the businesses. All of the individual residential properties pay that,
It would be
pay the
But-
same.
the concept put in front of council, although that part is all detail that could come out later.
Okay, gotcha.
But the concept that other communities have adopted is a single static residential
Mhm.
ERU fee per year. And then that is what's used to calculate what the commercial and institutional.
Okay, got it.
And the key difference is that by doing this, you're bringing in fees from the institutional
Mhm.
district, who don't pay any real estate taxes, but certainly have a lot of impervious surfaces and contribute to stormwater runoff throughout the town. So anyway, step 1 was simply to approve the expenditure of town money to have the engineers get to that place where they could make a recommendation
Mhm.
for McCandless based upon more refined data. What was presented at that meeting was simply the concept of what a stormwater utility could be. They used in terms of monetary explanation, they simply used the example of Hampton, which is one of the most recent communities to adopt a stormwater utility fee.
Mhm.
So step 2, and this is where, I wanted to go through this because I don't know where this leaves the involvement of the EAC, because step 2 is to bring back for the engineers to bring back that data,
Mhm.
and present it to council. And council at that juncture is going to have to make a decision on whether to invest even more money, which is, as was said in the meeting, is estimated an additional $60,000 to put together a program that could be implemented. Although step 3 is that, because town council will change its membership profile in 2022, is that third part would undoubtedly absolutely come in 2022. And there would certainly be a last bite at the apple for that council to decide if they wanted to proceed and implement, or put it aside for another time. So I don't know where, certainly there is, if council in step 2 decides to go forward and actually spend the time, the money, and the effort to get to a place where they have a implementable program to vote on, there would be plenty of time for the EAC to have, I think, to offer any insights they may have. On the other hand, it is also possible that still in 2021, prior to my departure from council, is that they could decide that they're going to put it aside altogether, not invest the step 2 money, and simply not proceed further. So
Okay,
I think it's important to understand that there may or may not be a role for EAC to play
depending on whether they
because of the
go
timing
another step
and the
right now.
decisions. Yeah.
Now, it's my understanding they went through and approved step 1, right? So
Yes, that was what was
Gateway's been,
approved in that
okay.
meeting.
so Gateway's been given the go-ahead to at least start coming up with these ERU amounts.
Yes, and I had a
Okay.
meeting on November 4th with the engineers and Mr. Grimm and RJ, and they have they've made good progress on that.
Okay.
You know, they're doing well, and we do have a pretty you know, there's tons of questions about, I mean, there's still, one of the things, they're still working on a budget. There's, that's a key part of it, is to have a multi-year, it's, you know, budget.
Mhm.
And so that was not done yet. Some things were done, but understanding, because there's a lot of things in the stormwater utility that can be shifted from the general fund to the stormwater utility fund that are being done today. Because
Okay.
it includes all the MS4 work
Mhm.
that needs to be done, the unmandated work,
Mhm.
or mandated unfunded
Unfunded,
work.
right,
That's what I
gotcha.
meant. And then, of course, we have no money in the budget right now for meaningful, long-term, substantive, you know, significant projects. So all those things could flip into that. And
Yeah, Bob said that current spending is around 800 to $1 million on stormwater renovations, or in the council meeting, he said something like that. So those dollars would be replaced with the dollars from the fee, right?
yes.
So not replaced, but I guess that would
Fun.
be removed from the budget or something, right? Or
Yeah.
relieved from the budget, let's say.
Yeah, they would, because the stormwater utility fee can only be used for things that are appropriate
Mhm.
for stormwater activities, which include all of the MS4 mandates.
Mhm.
It would, there's other things you don't even think about, like street sweeping, because that
Mm.
contributes to water quality and MS4 stuff.
Mhm.
The engineering work that is associated with our stormwater work. You know, all of the things related to our ponds and maintaining them and upgrading them. You know, that's all covered under DPW's budget now and so on. So it would also it would alleviate some of the stress on the general fund. It would be completely focused. It would provide funding to start really planning for some material, substantive projects to
Mhm.
actually stop flood mitigation. Because really that amount you mentioned, there is very little in that. That's what I would call focused on
Repairs
flood
and-
mitigation.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I would call flood mitigation in that amount of money is the maintaining of the ponds. And we're trying to do some work, which the subcommittee is working on, in assessing whether some of the basins actually have opportunities for upgrades. You know, in order to hold back more water longer and so on. But honestly, that amount of money that's currently spent in the budget is not about making meaningful steps toward like something like flood mitigation. It covers the MS4 mandate,
Mhm.
which legally we have to do,
Mhm.
or be subject to significant fines.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, so do you think then, we're talking about what we can think about as our participation. Are we too early to even start thinking about that? Do we need to watch this play out a little bit? Or is there something we can start thinking about from an educational standpoint or anything like that?
well, as you all know, my time is short,
Yeah.
but I think, so this is, let me say that this is as a liaison, it's not in any fashion a directive, it's my personal opinion. But it is that, I think that in terms of the EAC, I think that stormwater management, the flooding issues our town has been experiencing, and working to improve, and not just stop flooding, but just get better controls, inform people, like build rain gardens. I mean, just, don't cut down, like leave your stream banks more natural, and don't cut them down so that they're, all those things that have to do with stormwater management. I certainly think the EAC can, and personally, I think should have a voice in terms of the stormwater utility. I think that it is, if it proceeds in any form or fashion, either before I'm off council or after, I think that the EAC could be very instrumental in helping the town to become informed, to educate in particular.
Right, and those are my thoughts. So that people don't just hear it and think tax, and I think there's a lot of information that can be provided to people so that there's better understanding of exactly what this is and why it's needed.
That
But
would fit into the speaker series.
Yeah.
And also into whatever are our means of communicating. So we have Instagram and McMail, or what's McMail tips, or
McCandless
McMail
and me.
and
McCandless and me would be a good platform for this. If
the
it takes
website,
next
maybe
steps. It's
maybe get some
interactive.
infographics on the website or something for people, or
Well, McCandless and me will give an opportunity
Okay.
to do like facts and let
Mhm.
people question
Right.
and let people comment. So it's the interactive component
Mhm.
that I don't think like the town website provides to us.
Right, and I know the what presentation we did going on 2 years ago now, some of the components that were discussed in that, I think, can also apply to this. But yeah, I'm sure we would want to tailor it to exactly what programs would be upcoming. So is this something we should just, I guess, kind of hold off here in the next month or two, see where things are going? Because I know you and I had talked about kind of holding off on doing stormwater type educational events while some of this stuff plays out.
Right. I agree with that.
What about
think-
just informing, like, I don't think, when people hear stormwater, they just think of, water flowing down the storm
Right,
drain,
right.
right? But like maybe just a general understanding of what stormwater runoff really is,
Well,
where it
that's-
goes,
And that's
like,
very much of what our first, that speaker
Oh.
series was.
Hmm.
It was a little bit of a panel discussion as well.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people looked at it as, okay, what are we doing about a flooding problem? When really it was more of a basic explanation of why it happens, what causes the
Yeah.
runoff, what we can do. But yeah, I think that's.
But I
going
think
back to some of
if
those
we get it,
sources.
if we get ahead of the game as far as educating on what stormwater is, where the water goes, some of the issues and some of the long-term issues, before we get, before we get results back and stuff, I think that's okay to allow, through McMail and things like that, to get the, I don't want to say public on board, but at least knowledgeable enough
Right.
to say, man, because if not, they're going to say, this tax, again, I don't want to get another
Right.
tax, another fee, right?
Right.
But
Utility.
utility fee, or, yeah, but, yeah, I think without understanding where it's coming from, it's going to be a hard sell.
Right.
Okay,
Maybe. I don't know.
It'll be a hard sell anyway.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I
But
think,
no,
at
I
least-
think that's,
I think that's the best thing we can do right now. I
Yeah.
agree.
it's one of the things that resonated with
Well-
me as a resident was the fact that when we call it a utility, we're really just not trying to use semantics to, because people are going to say it's something different.
all right,
But, we've, and I'm really saying this as a resident that I don't, and yes, I'm an advocate for it, but, we pay for water. It's a utility.
mhm,
Everybody wants clean drinking water, wants to flush their toilets and take their baths. We pay for sanitary, well, I guess the sanitary sewer fee would be to flush our toilets. And certainly we want that to happen. And, stormwater is no different. It's really no different.
Yeah.
It's, what is the difference between we have all these storm sewer systems. It is a huge infrastructure.
Mhm.
That is no different than water and sewer, is that it's been built. It's not been put under a fee structure before, but it's aging. The infrastructure is aging. It needs to be updated. If, depending on who you listen to, that we may or may not have global warming, but clearly we're having rain events that are somewhat
no, we
unprecedented.
are having global warming. I don't care who you listen
I'm
to.
just saying that there are people who
Yeah,
would argue that,
yeah,
but
well, they'd be wrong.
there is
Yeah.
unprecedented incidents
Yeah.
of flooding in our town, and they're not getting any better.
Mhm,
And
yeah.
so I kind of put it in that, that's kind of my approach, is that
Mhm,
this is a service that the community provides to its residents.
yeah,
And just like we don't want sewage backing up into our garages, and we want clean water to drink, we don't want our homes flooded. So if there was anything that, the EAC wanted to do in terms of just, I don't know, something on
Oh,
tips or something,
I'll take a
just
picture.
the importance of, it might be too quick to do it actually. But if you want to, I would like to look at it first before it got printed, if you did that.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? Sorry.
I said, I think that what the EAC could consider doing at this juncture is on McMail tips or something.
Well,
Something like
yeah.
Tony suggested,
Yeah.
something that's more general, that, kind of just resonates with the importance of managing our stormwater and things without maybe getting into the politics of an ongoing discussion that's happening at the council level.
Mhm.
More of a, did
Well,
you know?
yeah,
type of a
exactly.
thing.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was thinking. Have to
Yeah,
be parallel.
just general watershed education
Yeah.
and stormwater education. And also, now this is where it could get a little dicey, and so you let me know. But could we be allowed to occasionally show photos of some of the flooding that the flooding we're experiencing currently on Pine Creek? And I mean, can we share some photos of what, people need to understand that we have a significant flooding. I don't know if people don't maybe live along some of the waterways in the township. Maybe they're not quite aware of how bad the flooding is every time we have a significant storm. And I'm not even talking significant. I mean, if you have a steady rain for more than a day, we're worried about what's going to happen on Pine Creek. So, so maybe, an educational campaign that goes out through a number of different channels over a sustained period of time, I would be happy to help work on that, especially from the watershed perspective. I already have a lot of information available that I can throw together
It's also Sloop Road has also had flooding issues and things too.
Sloop Road.
It's just not just the Pine Creek watershed, it's also other watersheds.
Do you know any of the residents, Ken, on Sloop that have,
I don't know them personally, no.
okay, I'd be curious to know, and I know there's a group, there's a group over on, by the Eichner Farm.
Oh, this Citizens for Better Stormwater Management
Yeah.
or something that is.
Could they
Brian
potentially?
Danley, Rich Mangione, Rich, or Mr. Eichner, I don't know his first name. And, you know, I mean, they've got other members, but those are the super active
Yeah.
members of that group.
I mean, I can only imagine that they would want to be on board for anything that potentially is going to
Yeah,
deal with
they're-
stormwater. So could,
Yeah,
I'd be
well-
happy to reach out to them.
Yeah, there's a long history there with them. They clearly have experienced multiple incidents and have grave concerns in that area. Yeah, I don't want to sound wishy-washy here. I would love to see the EAC potentially consider doing something that would be highlighting stormwater. I honestly also feel that I would want to, depending on exactly what you wanted to do, like Dawn, your suggestion about actually putting flooding pictures, because these people have these flooding pictures all over the internet too, on Facebook and everything. If the town, I'm not sure the town.
Yeah,
would
that
feel-
part could get a little,
the town would feel comfortable is, you
I
know,
can
like
see where that
take,
could be
it's almost like taking, you know, like
Yeah.
this area versus this area, or, you know, it could be construed. Even though that it would just be an example of what can happen or what has been happening. So I suggest that if you want to do something like, you know, and maybe you wait until you can either do something preemptively that I think needs to be educational, like heads up, let's think about stormwater management, think about the issues that we're dealing with. And then I think there's a whole other support role if town council should decide to continue to pursue, you know, the concept of a stormwater facility utility that could be, you know, very multifaceted
Mhm.
with speaker series and more communication.
And the tips and everything. Almost sounds
John,
like,
do you have any,
I mean, generally, you know, Bob Grimm and I have discussed that over the period of time, since this is kind of a long-term thing over the course of a year, definitely using the Canvas and me for just like ongoing articles, feedback, et cetera.
yeah. Yeah, I think that, I think McCandless and me comes into it if council decides to actually, if this council, it doesn't mean, even if this council doesn't, it doesn't mean that the 2022 council couldn't take it back up again. But if this council approves taking the next steps to put together an implementable program, then I think there would need to be a full court press. And I think the EAC's involvement, active involvement, that would be very appreciated to educate and to assist
Right.
and, you know, work with platforms like McCandless and me.
well, it sounds like we need to start thinking of a plan
Mm-hmm.
to be ready. And I know, Dawn, just in our conversations, I think you've got some great ideas as how to use different platforms.
I
And
can
you've
at
got
least
the
get some
watershed.
some thoughts down and
knowledge
started. that
too.
we can-
So would that be too much to ask for you to just sort of maybe come up with a game plan
for next month or,
well, I mean, just how are there things we can do right now, should do right now? And should the towns go down that route? What would be the next steps we think we should take to get this out there? And I could foresee the, you know, speaker series, definitely an event in there. That takes a couple of months to put something like
Right.
that together. So I see that as, you know, we kind of wait and see where council goes before we put that together. But things like the tips, and and I know this is further down the agenda. I know I had Tony up just because it's alphabetical. Maybe you guys can just discuss a quick tip for this month, just, get people thinking.
Okay.
Just throw out a fact they didn't know.
Okay.
Once again, nothing, we're trying to keep those pretty brief, so.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Are you okay with that, Dawn?
Yeah.
Just
like some rough ideas of,
exactly,
Yeah,
and kind of what steps we think we should take and go from there.
Are you suggesting for the McMail tips for November, we should maybe do stormwater?
I think that's unless
you
you
have
had
some-
another idea that
Well,
you wanted
I was
to.
gonna do the plastics, but.
Oh, that's right. We had
but,
talked about that too.
yeah, I mean,
So,
we could always we could rotate, like if you wanted to take this month, I do next month.
well, if you're ready to
Plastic
do
isn't going
plastic.
anywhere for like hundreds of
I
years.
If you don't mind my
Yeah.
butting in, I think that plastics is a great topic, but plastics might be, I mean, the stormwater is pretty urgent right now.
Yeah.
And plastics, I think that if the town, if the EAC wanted to recommend to the town, for example, take that idea of a ban further or recommend it or whatever, that if Pittsburgh votes for it
First.
first, I think that would be a
Help.
more meaningful kind of stepping off place
Yeah.
okay,
to say, well, city of Pittsburgh has already done it. Should we be considering it? And if we should, why?
Mhm.
It's my opinion, but
Yeah.
no, that's,
you guys,
Makes
I
sense.
mean, I'm not your boss.
so are you guys okay with that then? Maybe swapping that for this month?
If you don't
When
feel-
is it due by?
Yeah.
It's already November. What's today? 10th, 11th?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put out McMail on the 26th, the day after Thanksgiving,
Oh, okay.
since this is kind of a big topic and we may want a little more time to review. Maybe like the 17th or the 18th would be a good time to get a rough copy in.
Okay.
And then, Bob, Shelley,
Yeah, I think we should just all review it. I think the idea here is to get people thinking about stormwater and the issues that the community is
That's in a
facing.
week, huh?
Like
So-
what's real?
And really, in brief, I mean.
Yeah.
Brevity is a good thing here, so,
You know what,
I'll
I'll-
trust you to.
I'll
How
go
about-
ahead and I'll put together a draft of the stormwater one for this
Mhm.
in a couple days here, and I can email it over to you.
That would be good.
And then, because you're the expert, I'm not, but yeah, and then I could just,
Okay.
if I have something lined up for plastics, I could always do that a different month or something.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, now that sounds really good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, is there anything else then on stormwater? We think
Not
we're,
unless anyone has any questions about more detailed questions about what the concept
no,
entails.
I pretty well understand the topic here, and I have spoken to some friends who live in Hampton. And they, of course, were very much for it because they're, more environmentally inclined also, and they think it was, a wonderful thing, but I know it's a fight.
My question is, I have two questions, I guess. I'm assuming we have some sort of record of rain events versus, I don't know what you would call it, let's say overflows, right? Or flooding scenarios. So is that something that's making the case for this? Like, if we go back 10 years, I would imagine that the rain events versus the flooding may have been a less percentage than it is now as the infrastructure is aging. I don't know, right? So that would be a way to make a
It's
case.
development, really. At the end of the day, the biggest contributor is development. And there was
More impermeable surface, you mean?
Well,
Like,
there
is
was-
it-
there was, the North Hills has been booming. I mean, I moved here in 87 and it was still a lot of green space.
Mhm.
And I think it's been just absolutely booming. And back in the late 80s and the 90s, perhaps, I don't know every town, municipality, but probably into the 90s as well, that stormwater ordinances were older, had not been updated. They, were definitely a different standard. And so what happened is tons of developments got built,
Mhm.
tons of institutional and commercial developments got built. And they were built to what we would say today under current ordinances, current best practices are significantly deficient
Mhm.
stormwater specifications.
So is that a code issue or is there?
Well, we've updated ours and that's one of the things my stormwater committee has been working on is updating it even further to be even beyond like the counties
Yeah.
requirements. So there's been a lot of work on
Mhm.
upgrading, but that doesn't really help that so many, I mean, you just have to drive around and how many new
Yeah.
developments have been built in
Right.
McCandless and Pine, which is above us in particular,
Mhm.
and have been built between like 1990 and 2021.
Just as a little bit of perspective too, is where the cinemas are now, that used to be a golf course. And going back in my memory, Agnes, that was flooded worse than we've seen. And then we had the one hurricane, begins with an H, Ivan.
Mm, yeah.
And those were the two really biggest
Mhm.
rain events. As far as flooding, the big issue is my one buddy helped develop the Office of Surface Mining regulations on water and all of their mining practices. And he would just laugh that when they're doing all these developments, they had less control of what was going on than they did on a strip mine out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
And that's why, again, why we had to dredge North Park Lake and things like that is because of the sediment
Mm,
coming down from the developments.
mhm.
The issues with the ponds of the developments, how they were built, the size of them and how they were allowed to discharge water is not what we would do with them today.
Mhm.
They didn't retain enough water and they allowed it to go out too quickly. So all of those things combined, it's kind of going back and correcting the mistakes of the past.
Mhm.
But the more and more development you have, the more and more hard surface you have,
Yeah.
the more quickly water runs off. And when we've cut all the riparian vegetation out and all of that, it just becomes a real big issue.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. Yeah.
There are some statistics. I'll get them off of Beth Dutton. It's either on the NOAA website or on the Three Rivers Wet Weather, but there's more significant and storm events and they're coming more often. So there is data that shows that, the amount of rainfall we're getting now is significantly in the spurts that we're getting and is more significant. So
Yeah.
I'll get you that data.
So
Is that my
So the
other-
design
That
tables,
would be good to
engineers have
share.
used,
Yeah, I'll get that from Beth Dutton.
As a
and,
fact.
so the design tables, the engineers have used for years, even to size these things. They're 100-year storms and all that. And I guess that's.
Those
Yes.
100-year storms are more frequent now.
Yeah, Beth has she knows, they did a presentation at one of our watersheds. She did, and she had some really great data. So I'll get
Okay.
that for you.
All right.
Yeah, I would focus, the tips on the more facts, just facts that you can get out there. It's not getting into the politics of the benefits of a
No,
stormwater utility. Because I think that's really in council's hands right now, to
Mm-hmm.
determine where they're gonna go with it, but something that is, if there's data out there that can show, and it sounds like you have some, Dawn, that, just to convince people who may be naysayers that this is truly a significant problem for our community, that without, that will continue to worsen if
Mhm.
steps aren't taken to mitigate.
And I think just basic knowledge of people, they don't even understand what a watershed is and
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
Yeah.
just kind of the
It's
basics.
just
and-
going
yeah,
down through that and it leaves your yard, where does it go?
That's right.
And people don't really have a concept of that.
Yeah, you ever thought about where your water goes after it goes down your gutter, right? And then start start to work from there and just the general understanding of what's happening. And then where does all the water go at the very end, either North Park Lake or down the watershed or make its way to Millvale?
Down there.
Yeah.
North Park Lake wasn't ever designed to be a floodwater retention, it's just a recreational lake.
Right.
So it was never designed to be
Yeah.
a whole,
But that's what it's been doing.
Mhm.
And I mean, and this also could be a continuing thing, no matter what happens with the stormwater utility, because of course, which we've talked about in this, it's public, is that I would say a reasonably good chance that the preserve project we've talked about on Pine Creek Road has a good chance of happening, whereby the town will receive by deed and easement acres of that property that includes all of Pine Creek, which is at one of the highest points in McCandless, where it goes down to other areas in McCandless, and the opportunity there to invest in some channels to divert, rain gardens, a basin has the potential for holding back something in the estimated range of 1.5 to 2 million gallons of water, slowing it down from downstream flooding in McCandless. So just that's another thing that is related to this. So there's a lot of stormwater things going on.
the further upstream you get it under control, the better off you are.
That's right.
If I can make one
I
more,
need to do some stuff, but they're working on it too.
I think one more case to think about, and we were kind of talking about rain events and continuation of more frequent and severe extreme events. When we consider that every single time that we have an extreme event or a rain event and it causes cleanup issues, that costs tax dollars, right? Or whatever, money, right? And so as they become more severe and more frequent, we're going to have to pay more and more out of that pot for cleanup alone. And so last year,
Totally true.
and so if you start to think about it, maybe that's a way to start to frame the argument though, right? The argument isn't just that we have to pay this utility, but we're paying the utility to hopefully reduce the amount of cleanup that comes out of the regular budget that we could do other
Yeah.
things with.
What do
Right?
we currently
Yeah.
spend?
Don't get too
But-
far ahead. You know,
Oh, I'm not saying this in the McMail or anything like that, but yeah, just I actually was speaking with the resilience, one of the resilience officers at City of Pittsburgh today. She said they spent $12 million on flooding last year. That's just cleanup, not doing anything for infrastructure or anything, right? And so she said that's the most they'd ever spent. And so it's just going to continue to increase. Yeah.
Do you have a rough idea on what we spend for?
Cleanup? Not a clue.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably have
I
no,
don't.
we probably don't drill down quite to that level. Huh?
But and you're already, if you could fit something like that in there, that would be fine. If it's more like,
No, I was
We
just
can
kind
point
of,
to an amount or something. that
no,
we
I mean, the
spent.
concept of, that as rain events are, rain events requiring cleanup occur more frequently because you've got data about the rain,
Yeah.
about the rain events. And you can say and by way of example, the city of Pittsburgh spent over $12 million, last year, or whatever year, in just cleanup and damage, whatever, and cleanup for
Remediation.
flooding events within the city.
Yeah.
And I mean, you
a general
structure it the way you
statement.
want, But it's like getting people to realize that, just like they don't want to know what goes down their toilet, where it goes and how it gets there and what happens with it, because, and they pay their sewer bill and they just want it taken care of. Well, pretty soon, if we don't take care of our stormwater infrastructure, we're going to have other costs to consider.
That was all
Okay.
I-
Anything else on? Well, that
There's a
one.
lot.
Yeah.
But I know it's a very large topic, and it's something we should
Mhm.
take an interest in and an active participation in. So I appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, I would just say, I would, because I'm on my way out, I would hope that, because I've spent, almost from the very beginning of my time on council, working on stormwater, and I hope the EAC will continue to consider stormwater matters, no matter what happens, because they're important.
Right.
They're just important
Absolutely.
in a whole variety of ways, and not just about a stormwater utility, which may or may not happen.
Right.
Trust me, I'm living it. I won't let us forget it
Mhm.
for the next 3 years.
We got it. Okay, next topic I have on the agenda today was I guess,
I'm sorry.
we discussed single-use plastics. Dave,
Hi,
yes.
Dave.
Can I make two very brief comments? Shelley, can you give us a heads up when Gateway is going to be back in front of council? They're going to be presenting their, this phase one deal. Is that correct at some point?
Yes, they're, when I met with them on November 4th, they're supposed to have the information gathering complete prior to the next meeting of council. However, so it's possible that it could be presented at the final November meeting of council. But my personal opinion is, because I think that we're going to want some time to kind of study their findings and so on, that it's just as likely that it will not be formally presented until the first December meeting. At least that's what we talked about in that last meeting. So,
Okay, good, because I don't look at council agenda, all the time. So if we just get a heads up on that beforehand, that'd be great. Second item is, I had some questions on the presentation. Is that, Shelley, can I just forward those to you and maybe you know the answers, or maybe you don't? Is that okay?
I hope I would at this juncture, but if I don't, I will get you the answers.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, move on. Single-use plastics. I'm not sure how deeply we want to get back into that tonight,
Mhm.
but basically what I was going to present at this point is, I guess, is put out there what our next action would be. And I believe we have four options. First of all would be, let me go back to my notes again. And based on our discussion last month, I mean, our options are, if we do decide to do something with the single-use plastics, make some sort of a recommendation to council, whether that be an ordinance or a resolution, or we would put together some sort of a letter to, whether it's state legislature, whether it's county, whether it's, or we just proceed at this point with some sort of partnership educational series. Those are my thoughts on the different ways we can go. My personal thoughts on some of the information that was provided to us at last month's meeting and what they provided in response. I think I sent that out to everybody. At least as far as their sample documents, I'm not comfortable with any of those as drafted right now. Even the letter, because we're thinking, well, a letter to whether, it's the state or the county. And I think Ken brought this out as well. It's sort of lacking in facts, a lot of generalities, and I wasn't real comfortable with putting something like that out there at this point. I just don't think we're there, and I don't think the information that was provided to us was something I'm comfortable putting out there right now. That's my personal feeling there. Right now, the only thing I feel most comfortable with is educational type outreach.
I think that, again, that fits into the speaker series. And all
Right,
that.
right. Unless somebody else feels more strongly that we need to put a recommendation together at this point. I think somebody else mentioned that, you know, we should see something from the city of Pittsburgh here very shortly.
Mhm.
Do we wait and see where that goes, and then we can kind of dovetail behind that with any other recommendation? I'm welcome to other thoughts,
I'm just gonna go with like how we did with the DEER program,
right?
because that can be very politically explosive when we were dealing with that. And so we did that, you know, with the questionnaire, doing the presentation with the game commission, giving people ample time to interact with it and everything. And I think with both the stormwater and with the plastic, I really think that, you know, minding our P's and Q's, just building that base of people being aware of the issue
Mhm.
and understanding the issue, and then you can progress with policy solutions to it. But it's one of those things, if you get out in front of it, that's when things just blow up. You get very polarized, and you need to take the time to bring people along, allow people to express themselves, and work it through so that when you actually do a policy that it's accepted.
I totally agree. I think if you don't have people that are educated in the subject, that's when you have this explosive, and people are just saying words that they see on Facebook sometimes, right? You know, it becomes a battle of nonsense. So I agree. I think that's a good path. Making sure that everyone is aware and hopefully educated to the point where they, and, you know, kind of like what I think what you were alluding to is having some legitimate educational sources behind some of the information, right? I know I sent that big long email. I'm sorry.
No, that was
I'm
great.
sorry.
That was great
There was a lot in
information.
there, but I was really kind of, I said to myself, like, I need to really look into this. So I started going into some scientific journals and stuff like that. So published, peer-reviewed, published journal articles and things. And I'm no plastic expert or public health, or I guess, you know, health effects expert or anything like that. But for what I could read, there's a lot of reason to educate. I think this is a topic that's worth hanging on to. So I'm glad that everyone's on board, or I'm glad that we're having this discussion. Because I guess my concern was after the last meeting, it kind of felt like things might have just like fallen off or whatever. So anyway, no, I'm glad that
No, and I just don't think we're ready to do the push that Penn Environment would like to see us
Right,
push.
yeah.
I'm not there. I don't feel like we have the information to back us up, which
Yeah.
is what you're both
and
saying.
Ken's right. If you just, I mean, if we don't know what's going on fully and we say, hey, here's this band we want to ban, they're gonna say, you know, they're gonna say, well, why? You know,
Yeah.
we might not have a good answer for that.
And there's a lot of kind of emotional type things behind this. Yes, there's plastic in a lot of places that we don't want it to be,
Mhm.
but I agree, we need more facts to back up.
You need to go through
And
one or
we-
two of those town meetings where it just becomes irrational, and you just sit there and go, boy, am I a human being like that?
But you know,
It-
even beyond, if council approves it, then you have the enforcement issue. You know, we got a
Yes.
sign ordinance passed, and but it's not enforced really, so,
Right.
you know, it's,
And I
I think
really-
education can go a lot further
yeah,
than,
at this point in time.
yeah.
I
Definitely
agree.
a good first start, and I thought that information that you had was great, and perhaps we could sort of kill two birds with one stone, sort of figure out how we're gonna put out an educational campaign, like whatever that plan looks like, and then deploy it for both stormwater and
Yeah.
single-use plastics, you know, whatever, you know, if the cadence is that we want to, you know, put out 3 articles a year and try to educate, you know, in this venue and that venue, and have this speaker and that speaker, you know, maybe we
Yeah.
can try to use that same footprint.
Yeah. It'd almost be like a template for.
Sort of,
future-
yeah, I'll, you know, I'll try to
Informational
sketch something out quickly and then shoot it over to you, and then you
Yeah.
can maybe plug your things in if it's helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And do we know, is this, I guess, the city of Pittsburgh supposed to act on this now? Do we know that for sure?
I don't
I
know
guess that's
beyond
what,
what, yeah,
that's what
beyond
Penn
what-
Environment was telling
Yeah.
us, so.
That's
You
all.
just had elections. I think you're gonna have
Yeah.
things.
It's
A
gonna
delay.
be a while. Okay.
Well, I think, wasn't Giant Eagle, they were kind of put on pause with COVID, I understand, but at some point, they
Oh,
had,
yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
yeah,
I thought it was 2024. Yeah,
So-
they've announced some future date.
and we have.
Yeah, that was holistically, because they're trying to get to zero waste.
Mhm,
I mean, it's part of a much
yeah,
bigger, I used to be their chief sustainability officer, so I know where we're going. And I'm very happy to hear that they've moved that along,
Yeah.
actually, even with COVID, that they're doing that, but,
but my point is there's we have Fox Chapel supposedly, I haven't verified that, but I'm assuming, Fox Chapel, we got City of Pittsburgh potentially, Giant Eagle, so there's a few, a few areas that we could pull from, I guess,
Right.
we're not the only ones in town doing this kind of thing. So maybe there's a little bit of momentum there. So,
there's a lot to learn, to watch what, for those forward-thinking communities and cities who are willing to take those steps to understand what their experience has been,
yeah,
the pros and cons, the how to handle it, what are the complaints, because I know that we have our cottage that county, well, it's New York, actually, I think it's the state. And, I'm sure that there was a lot of complaining in the beginning, but when I go up there, I don't hear anything. You gotta either pay for your bag or bring your own.
yeah,
I mean, not plastic, I mean, paper.
yeah.
Pay for your paper bag or bring your own, and people just,
That's how it is at Aldi's, people deal with it at Aldi's.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not all that much different than like Aldi's,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that there's a lot more good information to come on that topic, so.
In a broader context though, and I don't know what the solution is to this, but if there are a way to reduce the number of single-use plastics in general, and again, I don't know, I'd have to do some research into this, but if there are other ways to do that beyond the plastic bag ban, that would be something we could continue to. I think that's worthwhile. David, you said you had 140 bags of litter that you picked up. Any idea about how many of those or what percentage were plastic?
Yeah, there's certainly plastic bags out there. The blue Giant Eagle Get-Go plastic bags are everywhere. Sometimes you see a sheets. I think I might have mentioned last time, if I pick up 3 or 4 bags, I pick up 10 times as many masks, gloves, wipes. Those are all over right now, everywhere. But the plastic bottles, yeah, they're,
Oh,
Yeah, I kind of mean plastic in general, right? In the whole scheme of things, you probably have cans and bottles and all that stuff. Then you have your plastic bottles and plastic plates and whatever containers or silverware, cups, right?
I
Yeah.
would say it's like 60-40. What do you think, Dave? 60 recyclable?
yeah.
Or
I think that's probably good. There's a lot of cardboard out there.
We get like weird, like rubber car parts
Yeah,
and
a lot of car.
Tires.
yeah, stuff like that that's
Yeah.
not recyclable. Clothing.
Right. Yes, I'm not sure you can just look at it from a litter perspective. That's, certainly one part, but, how much gets into landfills, how much is actually, how much plastic do we actually recycle in McCandless? I don't know if we even have an idea of that.
I can tell you, US, we're about 8.5% of all plastic. That's pretty bad. Yeah, 8.5%. So I guess if we can reduce the amount of plastic we use, that would be much better than trying to recycle more than 8.5%, I think.
Right.
McCandless might be better than the average American number, it's just US total, but.
There's so many market forces at play too.
Oh,
Even if
absolutely,
you can't collect it, it's,
To me, this is a statewide issue. I mean, that's the only way I see anything happening. it's not just, people tend to cite California, this started in California, but there's 6 eastern states that already have these bans: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, I don't know, Maine, Vermont, something like that.
Maine does.
It's all over, it's all surrounding us, really. So, I would think it would be easier for Pennsylvania to, enact something statewide if the, the desire was there.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody seems to be pretty much in agreement here that our next step with single-use plastics is the educational route.
Yeah.
And keeping an eye on where the rest of the market seems to be going there and keeping up with that.
With what Dave just said, do we want to consider, I think you mentioned one of the options is letter to the state. Is that something we
well-
want to consider?
That's not ours, that's council's.
Oh, the council's letter, okay.
I don't think, am
don't-
I incorrect on
I
that?
don't,
No, you're correct. You're absolutely correct.
Okay, and we did have the example letter that was sent out.
mhm.
And that's one that
We
I-
need some work.
I took a lot of issue
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, it's not something I would feel at all comfortable
Mhm.
giving to council for any reason. So,
So start with education, and then as we move our way towards potentially sending something to council, there could be potentially a ban or potentially a letter,
Mhm.
whatever we choose as that next step. Yeah, okay. Good.
okay, anything else on that topic? Great, thank you very much. The next topic up was Jeff had indicated he would be here tonight to give us an update on, he said he had a report for green space, and I believe he was supposed to have spoken with Adam Butler about the property, but I guess he was not able to join us tonight. I did talk to Dawn about taking over some of those aspects of things, as far as getting back in touch with Adam and working through some other future green space type things. I know you have interest in Potter Park. And then also I have spoken with Ken to follow up on the grant application
Oh, for Wall Park.
for Wall Park. Yeah, yes. Once again, I was hoping maybe he had an update for us. But
You're just waiting.
And who to contact, because he contacted both state senator and representatives, and just who he contacted in their offices.
yeah,
and
and maybe I can get in touch with Jeff, and between the two of us, we
stuff. I can
can.
email him.
Okay, yeah, if you could do that, just find out who he's been speaking with, just so we kind of make sure no one forgets about it. And obviously, if we get the money, we'll find out. If we don't, we won't, but it's, we need to know where that goes from here.
Those, I just call those black holes, they just disappear.
I know, but thank you very much, both of you, for taking those on for us. I don't know, Dawn, is there anything else you'd like to say with the green space stuff, or just right now, I guess, catch up with Jeff?
Yeah, let me catch up. And then I think next month I'll be in a better position. to
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I was
have
hoping
thoughts
to
share.
hear some stuff from him tonight, but that didn't happen, so.
Yeah. So if we get something from him that you can forward on, that would be great. If not, I'll just reach out to Adam. And I'm still putting my thoughts together generally about, green space.
Okay,
Don, when we talk next time, why don't you remember to bring that up? Because I can give you some of the history of, I don't know that you know all the history of the Adam Butler property and how it came to be a topic. And
Well,
she knows. an
I
awful
sent
lot, yeah.
Adam to the EAC. So
Oh, then
Adam's
you
my
do know.
neighbor.
Okay, you know
Yeah.
about the activities committee and,
Mm,
I've heard a little bit about what went on after he contacted the town, but he and I, he's my neighbor, and he was, chit chatting with me that he had this idea. And I then flooded his inbox over the next several weeks
Okay.
with 10,000 ideas, and then sent him to you guys. So I think there's so much potential there, but also with our other green spaces too. A lot of the stuff that I was talking to
Yeah.
Adam about, we could easily do in green space, bird box building, bat box building, that kind of thing, getting some of the community out and involved, doing some water sampling, that kind of thing.
Some of that with the bat boxes and things like that we've done in the past and with the Cub Scouts and all.
Nice.
If when you, in the daylight, when you're going back out the road to Blazer, there's two bat boxes down in that bottom down in there.
In that, yes, I think, okay, I'm gonna look for them. I think I've seen something there before and wondered. Very nice. So yeah, so I just need a little more time.
Right. And obviously Ken too, anything, you can add to that discussion if you two could work.
Yeah, can you build boxes? Are you a woodsman? Are you good with a saw?
No, they did that with his Cub Scout groups, as a way to get the Cub Scouts involved and then,
Right.
I helped with the location placement of them and things. It's one of those things I've tried to, in North Park in all the county parks, they have the chimney for the chimney swifts. And just like on the east side of those, put in the bat box. Because you've already got the thing there, put the bat box there. It's not going to interfere with the chimney swifts. And anyway, that runs into one of those political obstacle courses. So that hasn't progressed anywhere. So, but those are things that we've looked at, or I've looked at and stuff like that. And sometimes you just run into unforeseen obstacles on things.
We'll see how far we get. I don't usually take no for answers.
But yeah, thank you both for taking those on. I appreciate that. All right, next up, community outreach speaker series. I think we've already kind of hit on some of these. I know it was on my to-do list to send out a list of topics so that we could start prioritizing. I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I did send out an email that had a list of the original topics, where we started and where we had gone with some of those topics. Some of them have been addressed, but it sounds like we've got some top items right now on our list, and that being stormwater, single-use plastics, and some couple of events that Jeff had already set up or has in the future with Beth Dutton and then AEC. And I apologize. I forget the topic that is for NAAC's meeting. It's November 16th. It went out in our McMail. I did register for it. You actually have to contact Beth.
Yeah, here.
Is that going to be Zoom or person?
That's Zoom. I'm not sure if it's in person also, but I contacted her and she will send me the Zoom link. And I don't remember the topic.
Because we're going to do the first Friends of North Park meeting, probably Zoom on
Zoom
Monday.
as well. Okay. So that is already out there. And I'm not sure if there's another way. I contacted Beth also, another way we can publicize that before then. I mean, so I don't know if we can take the same text that we had in our McMail
Absolutely, yeah.
and shoot it out on Facebook. That would be
Yeah,
great.
like a cute logo too.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Is that a kind of thing appropriate for savvy citizen? Or is that more, we've been limiting in that to more just,
Recall if I actually put it on there or not, because we do have this sort of community calendar concept where like groups can submit things put on there, so.
I was just wondering, because most of
Autonomy,
what I
I'm
see
sorry.
is savvy citizen.
So my
Savvy
understanding is the
committee
guy that
meeting,
used to own the
savvy
barn,
meeting.
it's
And
the
I've seen
first
now
letters
people
of
extend
each of
it
his
to
daughter's
animal
names.
outside.
Or something like that.
Oh, got it.
Autonomy, he made up the word. But
Okay.
the meeting is Lawn to Nature Program, November
you.
16th. Yep. I signed up for that too.
And I just think that the partnership with Beth has been nice because they've been willing to set up so many of these little things for us. And we really don't have to do anything but pick a topic and they tell us where to be and how many people. So I'd like to keep that up. One other side note, the speaker series, when we originally set it up in the first bunch of events we've done, we did through, with the help of North Park Library, Northland Public Library. And I've been trying to get in touch with those folks over there. Katie Coleman, who's helped me out. I've received no response. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's, anything that's changed with our relationship with the library right now.
We just,
I
the
know.
council, yeah, right.
I know.
Council
I realized, I saw
did
that.
not approve their increased budget. So it may be a current situational.
And I wondered, I will still try and reach out to her because they've been instrumental in helping us publicize. I was showing you the flooding in our town. It was the library staff that put all the graphics together and did a lot of the publicity. We kind of shared the publicity, but they also hosted the Zoom platform and did an awful lot of help. It was a partnership to get these programs out to more than just McCandless and more of a North Hills base. So I need to follow up on that and see if we still have that partnership that we can draw on for some of these. But it looks like speaker series, we have our first several topics lined up. The only other one I was thinking maybe timely is the whole revisiting the recycling, just because I know our whole our contract is up. We'll have a new contract and different.
The list I have, the
Recycling.
first topic is zero waste recycling, or am I
Yes.
looking at the right list?
Mhm,
Oh, okay.
mhm.
Oh, I thought you were saying, okay.
Yeah, that was the very original list when Angela first put this program together.
Got it,
Angela
okay.
Woods really got the speaker series going. And when she started, she had a very ambitious list and was trying to do these quarterly. And then COVID hit and it slowed us down. And then I was in charge, which slowed us down. So I've found that I really don't have the time to take these things completely. So I'd kind of like to do more of a partnership with others on the committee. And I'm happy to work through the logistics of getting these things produced, but I will need some help
Mhm.
on when we choose a topic, coming up with speakers and that sort of thing. So I guess in summary there with the speaker series events, unless somebody else has some other topics that they think need to rise to the top right now, I think we've got our marching plans with the stormwater, with the single-use plastics, with our NAEC presentations. And for me, the next topic down that list would be recycling. And does anybody else have any thoughts or any topics really that think we need to hit on right now?
So you're thinking, I guess my thought was in our previous conversation, it sounded like stormwater might be a little bit more pressing. I don't know. I guess I was, we can have a
I agree.
conversation whether it's which should be first or whatever, but yeah, I think one of those two should be the first one up. Yeah.
And I think stormwater, but I still also think we're in just a little bit of a holding pattern, but I think we
Oh,
still
gotcha.
should
Okay.
start working on ourselves to come up with some, as you and Dawn kind of put some of this information together,
Yeah.
brainstorming
too.
who might be involved with coming to speak, or if, members of our own council can do that.
Mhm.
Or members of our own committee.
Yeah, I
That's kind of the next direction is who we bring into this.
I would like to, if there's no speaker for alternative energy and managing energy, I'd like to do that. Yeah, that
Oh,
would be-
okay.
Yeah, I'd like to present that.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I mean, if that's something you want to think about and you feel like you could pull together,
Mhm.
in the next 6 months or so even, we could certainly move forward with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could
half
present
the
on that
battle is
Next week.
pulling everything together and
Finding a
organizing
speaker.
it.
Yeah.
But we have one.
But we have one.
Yes, I
And you know
volunteer.
what? If
We have a
had
room.
speaker,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I could do that as soon as next week if you wanted. I don't, yeah, I mean, I've been talking about renewable energy, alternative energy for a long time.
Yeah,
More
yeah.
than anyone wants to hear. Yeah.
Okay, well then what I need to do is continue trying to get in touch with our partners at the library, number one.
Yeah.
And then.
So for our
present
committee
that.
though, should we kind of, I don't know if recruit's the right word, but look for speakers for the recycling and stormwater topics? Like begin to, I actually don't know I know there's a few professors that do sustainability at Pitt. They might want to do it, the recycling one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that would be good. I don't know anybody. I know for stormwater, do we want to talk about stormwater or do we want to just talk about watershed, our watershed in general?
I think you need to start with basics.
Hmm.
You're
So,
trying to bring people from not even having any awareness of it to why it's important and why you need to do something.
mhm.
So you need to start, in first grade and work your way up. I would envision that as being a 2 or 3 part series.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
We couldn't do that with quarterly presentations, right? I mean, that would be almost a year worth, if it were a 3-part series, that's,
We,
9 months
we can
long.
do these as often as
Yeah.
Oh,
we have
yeah.
folks that
Yeah.
that want to get these going.
but yeah, let me think, because, maybe we can for sure get somebody from the watershed stewards. I can help, but it'd be a good opportunity for an upcoming watershed steward
Mhm.
potentially to come and help with a presentation. So maybe we could just do some general watershed as part of the stormwater talk. I know like when they had the nice folks come in from, I forget what group that was, to talk about stormwater last time, everybody that suffered from flooding came to that meeting hoping to have a voice, and that wasn't what the
Yeah.
presentation was all about.
Right,
But,
and it was mostly speakers from the conservation district.
yeah, those, and they were great.
Right, and
but,
Gertie's Run, I think, was there as well.
yeah, and I remember the folks, Rebecca somebody, and I can remember their faces,
Jesus,
but
yeah,
so I just, we'll have to be careful how we present it and how we, because I don't want those speakers to come and get attacked again.
no,
by
I know.
people
I
who
know.
think that they're coming to be able to come to some sort of resolution about flooding,
Right,
I don't think,
Oh.
I think I would, if you don't mind my advice or suggestion, is to structure, if you're thinking about doing actual speaker series about stormwater, which is appropriate at any time going forward, but in terms of defining topically what is going to be appropriate, I think I would, as Judy kind of suggested, I think a little earlier, nothing wrong with thinking about it and potentially planning for it, but kind of put things on a little hiatus.
Yeah.
Till we understand if like that concept of a stormwater utility is going anywhere.
Mhm.
And then it becomes, and like, for example, if it just doesn't right now, then you're going to want to focus on not only education, but you're going to have to, these are the people who are living this every time it rains.
Yep.
You're going to have to put, include things that are what can people do? And I think that's what that earlier presentation was, and
That's
it
what
was
it
a
was.
huge disappointment to them.
Yeah.
So if there's no solutions for the people in McCandless, it's
Yep.
hard.
Oh, I see. Yeah. If they have.
Yeah, they were very,
There's
I
gonna be-
mean, it was a great presentation.
It
It
was.
was just not what the people in McCandless interested in
I know.
stormwater
Yeah.
wanted to hear. They
Yeah.
thought they were coming here to hear about what McCandless was going to do to
But
help solve their
Yes,
problem.
was
that's what I
exactly-
came for.
okay, but it was the title said what you can do.
Yeah,
They didn't want to know what they could do.
No, I know.
but you've got to understand though, the issues that some of us are having on Pine Creek are greater than a rain garden. I mean, they honestly are. We,
Oh, yeah.
there's we need some major restoration work done on some of these. We've got some issues, but, and so the presentation of rain gardens and all of that was great, but we either need to give the flooding people some sort of venue to feel like they can do something, or we've got a better, I don't know, somehow, just make sure people understand that. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
if the stormwater utility concept gets any traction, it would be a great springboard for the EAC to support that effort and gain and educate the public on that and why and so on. So that's what I mean, just kind of like we're in a little bit of a hiatus. I think stormwater is always super important for a group like the EAC and for education for the town, but how exactly you would topically go about it could depend on what was in play at that time.
Yeah.
Well, Ken maybe has the right idea, what he was mentioning earlier is, kind of start low and slow, right? Start with something that is a basic understanding of the watershed and where the water goes kind of thing. And don't mention, or maybe barely mention anything about flooding besides this is kind of how flooding might happen in a neighborhood. I don't know. Definitely don't advertise it as anything related to flooding.
Right.
People don't understand basic things, like when you get up to the top of the red boat up there, everything's going, when you get on the other side of the hill there, everything is going into the Ohio River, where on this side, everything is going into the Allegheny. They don't understand watersheds. They don't understand where water goes. They don't. And if you have that basic concept of broadening somebody's perspective to look at things, it helps to then build in, then you can come in, you've got a foundation that you can come in and get to the ordinances and stuff.
Well, I think it might also develop a bit of a community perspective because just because the water leaves my driveway doesn't mean it disappears. It
Right.
goes into your driveway ultimately or whatever, right?
Right.
And so I don't know if that's not an easy concept to just
And
kind
then,
of
Right.
come up with on your own. I don't
It's,
think.
it's gonna take some very careful
Yeah.
planning, I think, to.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for sure,
Put that together.
and this is something I'm not really ready to talk about just yet, but as sort of as part of the speaker series, wanting to have some sort of introduction to your watershed and getting some of the watershed stewards to come out and, well, I have a couple locations in mind, but, getting some of the residents into the water, we'll do some macro invertebrates, like what's in our water, what's in our creeks, what bugs are in here and what do they tell us about the health of our water, how healthy are our waterways, and look around it like Beth did with us on the Vestal Trail Walk, look around, what do you see? Look how much silt's in the bottom of the creek.
Right.
Look at the scouring on the side of the creek. You can see where the water's raging through and pulling all the dirt in, and so getting people to be aware of, what's right here, and what's in their backyard. And then what it all means to them, because those little bugs will tell us a lot about how healthy that water is or not. I haven't done that yet, but I'm super excited to see what kind of bugs we have. But we have the equipment for that, we can get the watershed stewards, it's fun, the kids will love it. If we can get a couple kids into it, we'll recruit some folks. Yeah, and then I would love to see us start doing that at least once a year, if not twice a year, and keeping that data. Let's start tracking that potentially as the EAC, but we can talk about that later.
Beth may well have from when
Some
Bill
citizen
Model
science.
and everything with the Pine Creek watershed. They have data going back many years on a lot of that stuff.
Yes,
I love the idea of citizen science.
yeah. So maybe potentially doing that speaker series as an outdoor event down at one of the creek
Right.
areas, and we could do like an educational presentation and get the kids in the water,
So,
collect some data.
right, and that sounds like one of the many options that Beth had given us. And I think it's a follow-up to the Vestal Trail Walk. So that's another, and that's almost something that's a little bit different than what we called speaker series. The project form and the approval that we have from council for speaker series is this partnership with the Northland Library. And some of these hands-on may be something a
Okay,
little different. We'll have to kind of sort that out,
Okay.
but we definitely need to, get all
So-
this moving. I think you're great.
There'll be liability issues and all of that kind of stuff that need to be
Sure.
aware of, if nothing more.
yeah,
So that may be
probably have to sign away.
kind of
stuff.
right, it may be a separate type of a project form to proceed with those, but
Gotcha.
I like it. Sounds great. Okay, any other input on speaker series?
Yes.
I don't.
Dave?
Go ahead.
I'd like to just cast my vote in favor of what Tony talked about in terms of energy and managing it. I don't know a lot of people. I know 2 people. I've heard of 2 people right now that are installing wood stoves in their house, and another guy who is converting his gas fireplace to a wood fireplace in anticipation of higher and much higher gas prices this winter. So that might be something that's on, people's mind right now. Just an idea.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
I had a few other ideas for the speaker series. Maybe I should have put it in an email. I don't know, but a 3-mile long email. You guys see another one of those? No, but I think an interesting topic would be sustainable transportation. Not only obviously public transportation and things like that, but electric vehicles is something that is, I think, kind of forefront on a lot of people's minds. And
Mhm.
I don't know if that's too tech oriented, but food sustainability, I think, would be a really cool topic. Talking about, locally grown foods, organic versus chemical fertilizers and herbicides, and what they do beyond just the food. So I think there's a kind of a whole great conversation to have there that
Mhm.
fits in with
Mhm.
local markets and things too, and
Right.
farms. I don't know, again, this might be too technical, but life cycle assessment is kind of how we determine the environmental impacts of things. I don't think too many people are familiar with that topic. But when we say how much greenhouse gas emission when you drive a Honda Civic, how many miles, that comes from life cycle assessment, right? It's not just the burning of the fuel, but there's a lot of other things to consider. So it might be an interesting way to get people to start thinking a bit holistically about things. And that kind of feeds off of that topic goes really well with, I know you said zero waste, but circular economy is a very similar kind of perspective. Anyway, you can combine those two pretty well. Air quality is another one. I know that Breathe Pittsburgh, Dr. Matt Mihalik is always running around doing presentations, but they have some really cool, they call them tech tools. If you ever want to check out like Air Plume, I think it's called Air Plume Pittsburgh. Some really cool stuff. They have Smell Pittsburgh, a little app you can get on your phone. But the air quality, I think, is something that maybe not this community necessarily might be kind of just beyond it, but Pittsburgh has some of the worst air quality. I think it's like worst 10% in
Because
the
the only
nation.
3 places they measure air quality in Pittsburgh are the Port Authority resting spot where the Pat Bus's diesel engines idle, at the the coal power plant in Springdale, and at the coke power plant, the coke mill over in wherever that is on the other side of
Clairton, I
Pittsburgh.
think, right?
Those
Yeah,
are the only
Clairton.
3 places that they measure the air quality in Allegheny County.
Well, those are certainly
talking-
contributors so,
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
air we breathe, so. It
Yeah.
seems like some.
It's not
worthwhile.
representative though.
I don't know. My understanding is the EPA, the 3 EPA monitoring stations aren't anywhere near they're closer to the city and not so much near some of the industrial sites, but I don't know that very well. The cool thing is with Breathe Pittsburgh, though, you talked about citizen science.
Mhm.
They actually have, I forget how many, but tons of volunteer people that are putting air monitors in their backyard. So they actually have tons of data. I know it's not EPA monitored or whatever, but it is still important information. So anyway, cool stuff.
Okay.
The Breathe project is super neat. I think that would be a really interesting topic. And then the other one is environmental justice. So I don't know how fitting this is in our neighborhood or not, but it's another topic that is I think worth considering. So I know it's a lot there, but
No,
we
that's
can
fine.
always narrow them down later, kind of.
No, but I will add it to the list. And that's great, because I really had this list of 5 or 6 items.
Yeah.
Now I probably have 12. So,
And I could do life cycle assessment, sustainable transportation, if you ever need anyone to do those. So
okay,
yeah, I can do those presentations as well.
all right, you're gonna regret telling me that.
No, I won't. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm,
No, I think that those are good topics to discuss. They're interesting, they're fun. Yep.
okay. No, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. I'll put the list together and see when I can start moving on first.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, any other thoughts? Speaker series. Next topic we really had touched on briefly, and that's the lithotomy program with NAEC. And John said he's going to help push out a little bit more publicity on that.
What is that?
I'm pretty sure
Was it the speaker? That was the one we just talked about?
yeah, we talked about that.
NAEC?
That was, yeah, it's in McMail. Beth Dutton has issued,
November 16th.
it's
right?
November
Yeah.
16th.
Oh, okay,
And
that's the
it's-
November
yeah, it's their-
16th.
It's
Got you,
actually
got you.
their board meeting. but
Yes,
They're going to have a presentation. They said the board meeting's very short
Mhm.
and then there'll be the presentation.
okay.
So that's already on the schedule for,
So it doesn't really have
Next
anything to do with autonomy so much.
no, it's
Okay.
just their,
Yep, got you.
I guess that's what she called it anyway. All right.
Because they do
And
have great programs at autonomy, by the way. I don't know if you all get those.
I don't,
Yeah, so on the Allegheny County Parks site, I think you can sign up to get the email, but they have great programs that they put on every month. You know, hikes, different speakers. There's some Native American Indians that come and do some educational programming, you know, around different things, different seasonal. Yeah, they have a lot of great
a lot of
programs.
stuff. Okay,
Just a little FYI.
that's great. No, that's great.
Oh, we
All
could maybe even grab some speakers, maybe some of those
right.
people. Ooh, yes, I'll look into that because
Okay.
I know Katie, the one gal that works here, she maybe could be a speaker for us
Mhm.
on something.
Okay. Thank you. A lot of great ideas. And that's all I had on there for community outreach. Next, just miscellaneous McMail tips. I think that's all kind of covered between
Yep.
between
We'll
Dawn
get
and
to it.
Tony, put something together and we will need to review, we're going to start again reviewing the articles before they go straight to John for publishing. So, and in this case too, especially if it's stormwater related, to at least myself and Shelley take a look at those before it goes to John to be published.
And I'm just getting you data from Beth, right? And then you're gonna put together
Yeah.
the little thingy.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll put together a little.
Yeah.
report. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Next up, topics for next month's meeting. I know, Dawn, you indicated to me you had some ideas you might want to start discussing, but you're not there yet.
not
Okay.
there yet,
And
but
and that's kind of what that's items on the agenda. If you're looking ahead to something and
so I think we're tentatively planning maybe that next month I might try to have some educational campaign plan footprint put together that we can apply. So
Okay.
maybe we could add that for an agenda item. I don't know if I'll have anything else.
well, and what I'll do, I'll once again try and give a little more than a day's notice, but notice before we put the agenda together. Because what the push is this whole Sunshine
Okay.
Act thing. We want to have the topics on the agenda.
Yeah.
That has to be published before the meeting. So,
I'll be honest with you, it doesn't matter how much heads up you give me, I'll do everything at the last. minute.
well,
That's fine.
I
You
will
don't have to
remind you at the
do it.
last minute. So I know how that
I
works.
work best under pressure.
Okay, report from town council.
I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has, but I don't think there's anything beyond what we've already discussed that I have. You all?
Okay, and we have no public here for comments today. Anything else? Any other concerns that we missed here? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a-
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have
I'll
a second?
second it.
All right, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Bye, Dave.